Welcome to Communicate with Power. I'm Barry McLoughlin,
And I'm Laura Peck.
and together we are hosting this podcast, which I've lost count of the numbers, but we try to do one of these a week, and the odd time gusts up to two. So we did one about 10 days ago. Now we're trying to somehow keep that consistent. Notice we're both wearing the color green. And Laura, maybe you can start with telling us, why the heck are we both wearing green?
Because it's going to be St. Patrick's Day, and Barry was born in Ireland.
Which they probably know endlessly because it does pop up very regularly. Yes, of course, I am proud of my Irish roots. This, of course, even in Canada, they don't just do St. Patrick's Day, it's now Irish Historical Month. So the month of March is filled with everything Irish. Every pub, of course, it's a great thing for pubs and bars across the country. They tend to do a lot more business. Funny, for not much of a drinker, I must say that drink is always related in some way to the Irish story, even though apparently there are 2 million ones in Ireland, people living in Ireland, who have taken the pledge, as they say. They're teetotalers. They don't take any drink. But that's not me. But anyway, so we tend to get, connect, and potatoes. If you say you're Irish, you're going to have two reactions. You're going to, drinks and potatoes, both of which I do enjoy. Okay, Laura, we did a couple of interesting things this St. Patrick's period. Maybe you could begin by just sharing one or two of those that we were involved in.
Well, we went to the St. Patrick's Day parade, and this was the first time since pre-pandemic that they had it in Ottawa. And so that was a lot of fun. And also, we were invited to the Irish Embassy to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And that was very educational because everybody has a story as to how their people came. And so it was fun also.
And who were some of the most famous people there? Mark Critch would be, for me, a huge one. We have met him before, by the way, but it was great to chat with him. One of our sons, Brendan, was involved in a production of the Critch, his story of his family, Son of a Critch, I guess it's called. They did some scenes up here in Ottawa, and he actually enjoyed connecting on that point alone. A great guy, and he's been celebrated there. He's had book launches there. That was one, but probably the most famous one globally was, of course, Prime Minister Mark Carney, who is Irish through and through. I think all four of his grandparents on both his mother and father's side were from Ireland, are from County Mayo. We're from County Mayo. And he did tell a story that he gave a speech. I have it on video. I'm going to try to post it below this, that he tells the story, a very poignant moment. We've never seen the prime minister in which the emotion of it did catch him. And you'll see that it's like 1 minute and 55 seconds into that video I posted. The moment comes, and it's a very touching moment that a lot of Irish people would have great connection with, and that is the terrible loss that they suffered, the losses they suffered over starvation and every conceivable thing that occurred. I don't just mean the potato famine. I mean, even later, it's very hard to earn a living. A lot of great Irish songs have a lot of tears in them, some beautiful ones. He was telling the story of going back to County Mayo, right to the church where his grandfather was baptized, because often that's the place where not only the baptismal certificates were, but the birth certificates were. And it turned out what they had was the baptismal certificate. And it was all there, a faded piece of paper. He said he held it in his hand. And where it said his grandfather's father's name, there was just an X. So this is the father of his grandfather. It had an X. And he looked to the audience and he started to explain what that meant. What it meant was he wasn't there for signing the baptismal certificate of his own son. And it was clear that's what happened. And as he starts to say something, he just stopped. He emotionally, he couldn't continue. And this went on for about 30 seconds. It seemed a long, long time. and that was a crowded several rooms of the Irish ambassador's residence. You could hear a pin drop, right, Laura? I mean, we were all silently feeling for him, and it was very emotional. And he's not somebody that shows his emotions, as you know, watching him over the years. But he started to talk about it, had to stop again, and then got going, where he talked about what that really meant. And he then was able to end that anecdote with a great one-liner, which is that his grandfather then walking the streets of Mayo as a teenager, looking to see what he could do for a future, and then he basically said, "To hell with Mayo, I'm leaving." And even the minister from Ireland, the cabinet minister from Mayo, he burst out laughing, as did the mayor of the town of Mayo. So it was a very funny, nice ending to a very poignant, real story that not only the 2 million Irish descendants that are here in Canada,
And
but the
Barry, if I could add,
more.
the Ambassador John Concannon and Mary, his wife, went back to the village
Mm,
where he originally came from,
yeah,
went to the school
yeah,
that had he lived there, maybe he would have gone to. And these little kids
yeah,
sang this song and did a bit of poetry.
yeah.
Mary Concannon recited a poem.
And they
So
had
it
the
was a
tears.
real Irish night.
Yeah, they had
You'll
the
laugh
tears.
and you'll cry.
You laugh and you cry. That's why Irish wakes are so great. You're going to laugh, you're going to cry, and that's really indeed what it was. So I don't want to be mawkish about that, but it was really a wonderful moment, and I had an opportunity to exchange a few words with him afterwards. Um, but people were very, very proud and pleased to see him there. That's for sure. Okay, so Laura, one of the great realities of today is that people are surrounded by misinformation, disinformation,
Uh-huh.
and that brings us to our next subject, which is this course that we're about to run at the University of Ottawa called, hold it up again, Risk and Crisis Communications in an Age of Disinformation. And we're doing that with our colleague who is with the University of Ottawa Telfer School of Management, and really the information integrity guru of government and private sector across Canada, Jennifer Irish. And this will be about the third or fourth time we'll have run this course. It changes each time.
So Barry, because we've been doing this, though, the actual risk and crisis training for many, many years, what will participants experience in this course that we are offering March 23rd, 24th, 25th
Yeah.
at the university? What will we experience?
Well, certainly from our side of things, we're going to look at the phenomena of social media, digital online media, and other direct sources who are flooding our ecosystem, if you like, the information ecosystem with misinformation, disinformation, deep fakes, AI, on and on. That is really distorting what people want to understand. What are the facts? What are the truth about the situation? And we do live in a world where it can all seem real. It seems to be the evidence, and it's really dividing people, dividing countries around the world. It's a very serious thing. We are looking at it through two lenses. One is the lens of risk. COVID is an obvious risk. What is the risk to a community? And we always define risk as that which will threaten life, health, safety, or the environment. And there's so much of those around the world. So how do you get a clear message across in that environment ecosystem? So we are going to be exploring strategies, tactics, techniques, messages on that, and of course for crisis as well. You're in a crisis, and Laura, you and I do a lot of issues management and crisis communications, public and private sector. They bring us in. We've got a problem, and what are the two questions, Laura, that they pretty well always will be asking?
What do we do? What do we say?
Exactly. So, and by the way, and can you do it like we
Now,
got a meeting, the minister, we gotta. So we've had those exact things, even on issues such as vaccines, on issues such as public health and the environment, and that's a crisis in which the very credibility of the organization is at stake. It is being threatened by a seemingly Could be true. And by the way, we've done crises in which it's all true. The terrible thing that was done or whatever was true. And sometimes people foist it upon themselves with their conduct, with what they say. Others have it happen to them. But either way, how do you, how do you get out of that crisis? How do you at least get in the driver's seat of it? How do you shape the narrative of it? What are you telling the world about what you did? And so it's very important because the entire credibility of an organization is at stake in handling it. We'll be talking about that as well. Doing exercises. We're going to do a town hall exercise for risk. We're going to do news conferences for crisis, and we'll do some joint exercises with Jennifer Irish on the morning of day 3. So it's a 2.5-day course, March 23rd, 24th, 25th. And if you want more information, University of Ottawa Professional Development Institute. And the title again is Risk and Crisis Communications in an Age of Disinformation. I got to learn how to hold that up to a camera. Anyway, thank you very much. And Laura, this is, of course, one of our favorite weekends. And what do we call that in our household?
Well, for me, it's I love Oscar weekend. I really enjoy watching the Oscars and recalling years ago we've gone to Hollywood at the same time as the Oscars,
Yeah.
and that is really interesting. Just being able to talk with people and engage with people who are so involved, like on Oscar day. You will see people all over the city dressed in gowns, and the reason why I had to ask is because they want to go for hair and makeup,
Mm.
and they want to have the gown on
Yeah.
because they don't want to
Just
mess
feel
their
into
hair
it.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same with the men. You see
Yeah, the
them all
tuxedos.
decked out,
Yeah.
incredible. And the whole city is like that. And everybody wants to talk to you also because they're there with their families,
Yeah.
and they'll tell you they're up for some award. And there's so many awards that are not just the major categories, but animation. So many people. It's an incredible job creator.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
And we should be clear that we're not only never been Oscar nominees, but in no danger of becoming one. So we weren't there for that reason. There for doing a seminar, as I recall, each of those 2 occasions
That's true.
in Los Angeles. So, but it did kind of give us some insight into how much is at stake. That's
Yeah.
just not dressing up for the cameras and
Yeah.
walking down the red carpet. That is their career, their future, and so much can change in it. We did have one experience going to a Hollywood studio with our son Liam, and the producer turned to. We weren't even there to really pitch anything, and the producer turned to me, the president of the studio, actually, and he said, "Well, Barry, do you have anything you're working on?" And I was kind of stunned. I looked at my son Liam. He and I were working on a screenplay, so we shared it with him, and he goes, "Tell me more." Right? He was sitting next to you on that sofa, right? So he said, "Tell me more." And so you then, helped out in this. So we began to describe the story of this movie. He said, "I want more. I want more." So we had gone off to do a kind of a tour of. He called it a VIP tour of the studio, and he said, "Come back at 6 o'clock when you're finished." And I said, "Well, it was getting dark actually." And I said, "Laura, I think he was just being polite. Let's just go. Let's just move on." She said, "No. He wanted us to come back." So sure enough, I'm glad we did because we spent another hour with him in which he's really drilling down into this. So that's still one of those projects that's kind of sitting out there, as many are. But when we got in the Uber leaving, I said to our son Liam, I said, "Liam, this could either be not much of anything, or this could be the most profound day of your life. And you don't sitting right here in this car, you don't know. It'd be one of those two." And so I wanted to give him a kind of a heads up that because my writing partner many years ago, Ken Shaw, and I were in Hollywood a number of times, and we had a few of those kind of experiences where this could be amazing, it could be nothing, and it's really important to keep your head on right because it could be equal chance of either one. And so that was kind of not the change of life, but it was a good story to tell. Anyway, Laura, any final things we want to share with our audience, other than please subscribe? You see that subscribe button? We want you to subscribe. And right now it's free. We'd love you to join. It's free and worth every cent, as we say. So we're looking forward to talking with everybody next week. A lot is going on in the world. We won't get into Iran right now. We're kind of overwhelmed with stuff going on. And we'll have more to say about the world of uncertainty in the next week or so as well, because we're starting to do seminars on that. I should mention, by the way, I forgot to say in our planning of this, that we are doing a series of open enrollment seminars for small groups. You are
Virtual.
free to attend those. They do cost some money, but not very much compared to what the full scale thing is. And these are half-day virtual seminars that we're running, ranging from making effective presentations to appearance before committees, to how to get your message across, to risk and crisis communications, two separate ones. We'd love you to find out more about them. There are Communicate with Power 2026 seminar series, and we'll put that information on the bottom of this screen as well. So we'd love to see you at one of these. And I want to say with Laura, thank you so much for attending, and we will see you next time.
And happy St. Patrick's Day.
Right, exactly.